The newest though, and when you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking
It came
about.
out 3 years ago, and I still haven't seen it, so that's why I haven't.
It's okay. I'll give it a worth watching, but not. It's okay.
Okay. So then we'll move on to Taxi Driver, the 10 o'clock film.
That was good.
What do you think about that?
That's like on my top 5, so I loved it. Yeah.
Had you seen it before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know your brother loves that movie. Yeah, her brother loves that film. I think it was like one of his first double disc he bought. What did you think about Taxi Driver?
I thought it wasn't my favorite of the fest, but it was really good. Like, I liked the way that the movie kind of, like the way it goes through the movie, and you can see the progression of him from just being just an average dude to like, you know, almost a little psychotic to just psychotic to then it just clicks back.
Yeah,
and it's like it's almost a little unreal.
Which gives credence to what my professor said. But what do you think about it, Jeremy? What do you think about it?
I can't wait to write my full review on Taxi Driver because it's definitely my top 5. I don't know where it'd be, but it's one of my favorite films. I think it's probably my favorite Scorsese. I'd have to look at the list because there's so many great. But
I like Raging Bull, but
I don't know. I'm actually more of a fan.
But there's more stuff going on in Taxi Driver than in Raging Bull. Yeah.
Just as a class, I think it's one of the best classics of all time. It's one of my favorite. Yes, it really is good. The score is so good. I mean, they got annoyed by me talking about how much I love it.
I never thought about the score. Like, it wasn't that important until he started
talking about
I was like, it is a good score.
No, I mean,
it is.
It really just
Film
totally
101
makes
music
that
has a lot to do with it. So so you have to get into the score. I mean,
I was singing the song hours after we were
because of him, right now.
I really love the score.
It's funny because when you think about Texas Chainsaw has a similar so it's like you're like, oh.
But this just makes the movie. It's really, really. Without that, it would not be. It adds so much flavor. To that.
It's like it's almost like Halloween without the. I mean, there wouldn't be no words.
Totally. It's one of my favorite films of all time.
I love Taxi Driver, and again, I watched it again. I mean, that was the first time I think I've seen it in like 2 or 3 years. But it's just a very dark film. Again, a great New York City film. I mean, I agree with Lee. I mean, the progression of De Niro's character is just genius. I mean,
the burning of the flowers.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
And that whole scene at the end, you know, I mean, if it happens or if it doesn't happen, it's just a great scene. And that bird's eye view coming out of the crime scene at the end, still to this day one of my favorite shots of all time. And then the last film of the night, which was the cult classic Warriors. What do you think about that, Mo?
It's one of my favorite movies since the day I saw it. When I saw it with you, I was like maybe like 10. And I loved it. It was good. It's just New York, you know?
It's just, it's Brooklyn, New York. I mean, it's,
I love the fact
again, talk about soundtrack. That funky,
I love that.
But what do you think, Lee? You saw The Warriors.
I thought it was a good movie. I felt like they got off a little too easy. Like, even though, like I don't know, it felt like it went by quickly to me. Like,
I think I know what you're trying to say. Like, there should have been more gang fights.
I agree.
There should have been more fighting for their come to.
Because it
seems like to see it
over
2 hours long.
It seems like they confront somebody and then
more of these gangs. Right. Like I said, I love the Baseball Furies. One of the greatest, scariest gangs in the history of the world. I mean. The Genghis Khans. I mean, there's so many freaking gangs. You're right. I mean, they should have been in the Bronx. They should have fought someone in Manhattan. They should have fought someone in Queens. They should have went through every borough and fought like the best gang of that borough. You know, being the whole gladiator thing that he talked about in the fucking stupid beginning of that asshole introduction. But
I felt like they confronted each problem the same. They went. They tried to stop him. It didn't work. They ran away. And that's like that's how kind of their confrontations went.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because if you're playing the video game, which we were discussing, and if you look at that box that has all that stuff in the video game, in the video game, that's exactly what happens. I mean, video game actually they fight almost every single gang you see in that movie, and then they make it to New York and fight the rest at the end. Again, I mean, nobody can do that. I mean, there's over 10,000 gangs, but it would have been interesting if they fought a little bit more, a little bit different, and then it would have been the politics of gangs back then, because they actually did touch on that whole subject of New York City gangs back there, and they actually did like the Orphans, like someone that's not on the radar. I mean, growing up, the Assassinators was like the biggest gang in my neighborhood, and then the the Dirty Dozens, I think they were, like more toward Bay Ridge. So it was like
the Dirty Dozen. They had names like that back then.
Yes, they did, but I don't think. I think Dirty Dozens.
Now they have like M2B.
Yeah, but those gangs are freaking crazy. Those
Yeah.
are the Ecuadorian, Mexican,
the Sunset gangs. Are
crazy. Those gangs, and they'll kill you for nothing. I mean, back then at least you got on your turf, you fought.
Yeah.
Over now, it's like you look at somebody wrong and they
back
kill
then
them.
it was fair. It was
Agreed,
fair,
and that's what I mean.
fair.
There was some kind of politics about it. I mean, what you think, Jeremy?
I really liked it.
You've seen it before.
It's been forever though, and because I watched it when I first watched The Outsiders in school. So
they were talking about that.
I didn't watch The Warriors in school. I watched The Outsiders in school, and then my dad was like, "Oh, you like that? Well, check out The Warriors." And
interesting. Your dad seems like an interesting person. I gotta meet your dad.
Yeah.
He's like,
I agree.
You like The Outsider? Well, watch this
Watch
R-rated movie called The Warriors.
Yeah, it's one of his favorite films.
Good for your dad. It's a good movie. It's a great film.
Yeah, and I really liked it. I'm going to talk about some of the things I didn't like, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the movie. I really liked it. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the character development in it.
Agreed.
I wanted to see more of the two Ajax and
the chick?
Harry Morgan and
Ajax,
and I don't even know his name.
Which one?
The main.
Swan?
Oh, Swan. Michael Beck. Swan.
I would have liked to see more of them because they're really good. And I mean, it's the movie.
Vicky. Her real name is Vicky Valkenburg.
What was her name in the movie?
Antoinette. It was kind of like. Do you remember the girl's name?
Kind of wasn't important.
Because you only hear
about them dying.
You only hear them mention when she's on the stairs. They call out her name, and then after that, you don't hear anything else. Danette. It was the ending.
Something.
Yeah, but anyway, go on.
But yeah, and I just would have liked to see just a little bit more. I mean, the movie wasn't meant to have that. I give them. I mean, there was no reason for that to be in the movie. But I would have been okay with them adding in some more character development and making us care a little bit more about these characters.
Yeah.
Because like when what's his name? I don't even know the guy's name who gets killed by the train.
Oh yeah, it was just kind of like
Fox.
It was like, oh, he got hit by a train.
That was cool, but I don't know his name and I don't care about him.
Well, yeah. Well, then, Jeremy, I'm going to yell at you because everyone got a name. They said their names, but again, once.
No.
They said once.
Fox was the Jew hair.
Oh, I know.
Who was also the thing.
I know this.
We've seen.
I don't feel like unless I care about a character, I'm not going to remember their name. So it's so it's just. His character was just, forgettable. But I did really love his death scene. Is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's scary. It's a scary scene.
It's really good.
I didn't feel it though because I didn't know him. He was very
Agreed. And a lot of people say that, but again, and just I mentioned it that night. But the comic books, and I don't know, about 2 years ago, I forgot the name of this company. They started out adapting Laurel K. Hamilton's books, but anyway. There's a Warrior comic book. The Warriors already have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 mini-series already. And in these books, they actually do focus on character development. I was telling him.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, like you said, who cares? Because the movie came out in 1979. The books came out in 2009. But still, I agree with you. I mean, being that I love the movie, I mean, I didn't even know Fox's name until the last time I saw it, which was about maybe 4 years ago. But I agree. I didn't know any of their names. I think I caught their names afterward. I mean... Ajax, I mean, Swan, I mean, Cochise, you only know because at the end he signed that poster we saw in Austin.
Great movie though. Great.
It is a great film. It's funny because Walter Hill, I mean, again, I don't know if a lot of people know about the director of the film. Walter Hill, again, an interesting character. He was writer of the movie Dark Star in the 70s, which I think Tobe Hooper had a hand in. And then he... did the Alien. He actually had a hand in writing some characters in Alien. Oh, okay. And then he did this film. And then the only other movies he did 48 Hours. Okay. And another 48 Hours he did. And I think he had a hand again in writing some kind of characters in another freaking movie. But I mean, it's like this, I think, would be his claim. Even though I love 48 Hours, and not to go off course, but I think The Warriors is his best movie. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, he also did one of those westerns back in the 90s. Oh, Buffalo Bill. But again, who cares? I mean, I think his greatest film would be The Warriors.
And I like that they took a seemingly impossible task to go from one end of New York to the other.
Yeah, that was a great
in one night.
That was
and
a
try
great
not to die.
Yes, and I agreed. Like you said, if they followed some type of they go from the top of the Bronx and they got to make it through the Bronx into Manhattan, and then from Manhattan into 14th Street, the hub where you switch over, you go through. But it was like, instead of, and then they break up, split up. I mean, I like that, but it's like, because then they get to meet more people, the Lizzies on 14th Street, and then, well, I guess it was the Baseball Furies they break off on. But, yeah, I would love to have seen more gangs. I would love to have seen more fighting.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's another little trivia. What year is it? Like in 2003 or 4, I remember reading an article that they were going to remake The Warriors. And I was so excited because then I thought about all these things. And then they were talking about the last screenplay was Asian gangs fighting each other downtown Manhattan. And I was like, what the fuck? I said, that's stupid. What would that have to do with The Warriors, But luckily, the video game came out, and that was basically their update of the film. And then they started re-releasing the movie again. So, I mean, that's good. But anyway, yeah, so that was the fest. Again, 1 hour and 10 minutes talking. I mean, again, I'm glad to have Monique here, who came from New York for the film Panahead. Again, we will come back with our Dark Knight review, hopefully next week. I mean, I just spoke with John while we were shooting this episode, and he's hoping next week sometime we can do it. And again, I want to thank again Lee, always being here, being the everyman. And my man Jeremy for all his film knowledge. And we will see you guys hopefully next week live at 10 o'clock Saturday to do our Batman Dark Knight review, Dark Knight Rises. So until then...
Wait, the show's live?
The show's live, remember?
Kennedy
was
assassinated.
What?
You're recording it now. How's it? You're
lying. You're lying to everybody. They're crying.
This is live. Like I said, we're supposed to set up phone banks for people to call us and tell us.
They call you and tell us shut.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, we'd love for that to happen. We always have. But here's our closeout song, and we will see you guys soon.
You guys should really dance.
No, I don't dance. You dance. Go ahead, Hips and Doofus.
No.
You dance. I want to talk about those retro films. Yeah, he can dance.
He's going to climb up the sides. Hey, what are we going to dance? It's all good.
This is good.
Oh, gosh.